Let me ask you something. Have you ever been told everything looks fine after your yearly blood work, but deep down, you know something is off? You're tired, you're foggy, you don't bounce back like you used to. You're not crazy. Traditional lab work is designed to look for disease, but not dysfunction. MVX is different. It measures your terrain, which is the environment inside your body that determines how healthy you really are. Welcome to the Discover Health podcast, where we explore the power of gut health, nutrition, and lifestyle to help you feel your best every day. I'm Dr. Josh Sharp, your guide on this journey to better digestion, more energy, and overall well-being. Each week, we'll dive into expert insights, practical tips, and real-life strategies to help you discover health. Ready to start discovering? Let's hit the trail. Welcome back to Discover Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Joshua Sharp, and today we're talking about one of the most exciting breakthroughs in functional medicine and functional health in quite a long time. And that breakthrough is a simple blood test that helps us see what's really happening at the cellular level. That blood test is called MVX Plus, and it's changing how we measure health. So let's start here. If there's one common thread behind almost every modern illness, whether that's heart disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, arthritis, gut issues, whatever the chronic health issue is, it's driven by inflammation. It's fed by inflammation. And so inflammation is almost like your body's fire alarm. A little bit is good. Inflammation helps break down damaged tissues. It helps alert your body that something's going on, and it helps bring other cells into the area so they can pay attention, so they can repair, so they can do whatever is needed there. It can help heal a cut. It can help fight an infection. But when that alarm never shuts off and it's going on over and over and over again, the smoke starts to fill the house and it damages your cells, your blood vessels, your brain, your hormones. Everything begin to suffer. And over time, we start to see that chronic inflammation show up as fatigue. We start to see it show up as brain fog. We start to see it show up as pain, anxiety, autoimmune flares, or even just body weight that won't budge. And yet, most traditional labs only tell us when the fire has already spread, when it's out of control. Most traditional labs fail to find that low ongoing smoldering that begins contributing to all of these chronic health conditions. And so they're only going to tell you when things have gotten so bad that you now require a clinical label, and now it's so bad that you've got a clinical diagnosis, but it fails to find the area in between when you're doing really well and you're developing these issues. And that's why MVX is so powerful. It helps us see where the fire is starting long before the house actually burns down. So when we're talking about MVX, when we're talking about figuring out where your body is falling short in terms of terrain, when your body is falling short in terms of being resistant and being resilient, we're talking about the function of the cell. When the cell is getting what it needs in terms of nutrients, and it is able to take in its food and drain its waste effectively, then that cell is able to do its job effectively. And its job is powered by mitochondria. They're like the little engines inside of the cell that provide the fuel, that provide the gasoline needed for that cell to do its job. And so really, when we're talking about organ function, when we're talking about the health of the entire body, that health begins at the cell. And if your cell is not healthy, if it's either not getting its food, not converting its food into energy, or it's not getting rid of its waste, it cannot perform. And what's so cool about MVX is it actually measures what's happening inside of the cell and even inside of the mitochondria. So it helps us see where you're breaking down in terms of cellular function and cellular energy production, which are vital components of every function in your body. If you've got thyroid issues, guess what? If your thyroid cells aren't able to take in nutrients and get rid of waste, they're not able to keep up with their normal work demand. If you've got liver issues or kidney issues or gut health issues, all of those things require properly functioning cells and energy production from the mitochondria in those cells to do their job. So let me give you a quick comparison. When we're talking about old-fashioned, normal, traditional blood work, a cholesterol panel is often used to predict risk, but cholesterol panel tells you about essentially traffic on the highway, but it's not really telling you about the potholes, the accidents along the way. It's not really talking about the fumes that are in the air that are going to lead you down the road to some damage, to some unwanted destinations. A liver panel, for instance, it can tell you when your liver is already injured, when there's already significant damage, but it's not going to tell you when your liver is overwhelmed and underperforming and heading towards that damaged state. And it's not going to tell you whenever your liver is under such a burden from its daily dose of chemicals and from your environment. It doesn't tell you those things. It's only going to tell you when you already have damage, when it's too late. A CBC test or a CMP test, they tell you if you have disease, but it's really blind to early mitochondrial stress. Again, that's the stuff that makes you feel off years before anything actually shows up on your lab test or shows up on that paper. By the time those labs show up as abnormal, you're already in the danger zone. And MVX is so powerful because it helps us catch the smoke before the flames. So, what is MVX? Well, MVX is a simple blood test. There's nothing fancy about it, just one simple blood draw, and it looks at 6 unique markers using advanced NMR technology. And so from those 6 numbers, we get 3 really powerful insights. We get IVX, which is your inflammation vulnerability index. We also get your MMX, which is your metabolic malnutrition index, and MVX, which is the overall metabolic vulnerability score. Don't worry about remembering all these things. There's not going to be a test, but I'll go through each one, why they're important and what they show you. Instead of asking the question, do I have disease? MVX asks, how strong is your terrain? How resilient are your cells to stress, to infection, or to aging? And those are the precursors. Those things set up the terrain for disease in the future. And that's what's really, really important, understanding your terrain. So to understand what MVX actually measures, you need to know a little bit more about your mitochondria. Again, inside every single cell in your body are tiny engines called mitochondria, and their job is to take the food that you eat and the oxygen that you breathe and turn that oxygen and fuel into energy known as ATP, which is essentially the spark that runs everything from your heartbeat to your brain function. And so when those engines are damaged by toxins, infections, nutrient deficiencies, or even from chronic stress, then they sputter and you lose energy production, you gain inflammation, and you actually start aging faster than you should. MVX gives us a way to see how those little engines are doing. And in fact, MVX is a very accurate predictor of mortality. Essentially, it's an accurate predictor of your risk for dying from any cause in the next 5 to 10 years based on that score. So let's walk through each one of the things that MVX measures, and I'll keep it simple and give you some analogies to help you understand even better. When your drainage system backs up, your body cannot eliminate waste effectively, and that leaves you vulnerable to chronic inflammation and illness. Bowel Mover supports healthy elimination at the colon, keeping your drainage funnel flowing. Find it at discoverhealth.gethealthy.store. High quality supplements for real healing. And don't forget to use code FIRST10 for 10% off your first order. So the first thing we're going to talk about is something called GlycA. And GlycA is like the fire alarm for inflammation. GlycA is measuring essentially how much smoke there is in the room. It reflects chronic fibrin-related inflammation that's often from infections. It can be from toxins or even from trauma. If GlycA is high, then that means your immune system is still fighting something, even if it feels quote unquote normal. And then there's small HDL particles. We think of those like garbage trucks. HDL is often called good cholesterol, but when it comes to small HDL particles, they have a very important job. They actually carry out the trash. They scoop up toxins, they scoop up cholesterol, and then they deliver those things to the liver for disposal to get for your liver to get rid of. If these garbage trucks are too few, there's not enough of them, or if they're too small, then trash piles up. That means you've got poor detoxification. And if your small HDL particles aren't carrying that waste away from your cells, then guess what? Your cells aren't effective at getting rid of their garbage. That garbage piles up and they're unable to keep doing their job effectively. That can impact all tissues of your body. But when you have a sluggish liver or lymphatic congestion, then that means that's a sign that you probably have inflammation and you probably have excess toxins. Your body's unable to keep up with that workload. So when we help your body support drainage via the liver, via the lymphatic system, via the colon, then those small HDL particles actually can recover beautifully. Your body can catch up with its workload and recover nicely. Then there's citrate. We think of citrate almost like the measurement of your energy circuits. Citrate actually is in the middle of your mitochondria's energy production cycle. And so when citrate is too high, then it tells us your mitochondria are not able to convert citrate to make ATP. It's building up. There's something blocking that conversion. When citrate is too low, then that can tell us that your energy production system is inefficient. And sometimes that can be because of a vitamin B1 deficiency or stress on your mitochondria. So if your body were a power grid, then citrate would tell us whether the lights are flickering, dimming, or if they're running strong. And then 4 through 6, the last three analytes are valine, leucine, and isoleucine. You don't need to remember these names, but they're essentially branched chain amino acids, which are the building blocks. These three, again, the branched chain amino acids, they're actually the raw material that your body uses to repair tissue, to build enzymes, and actually to fuel muscles. So if those branched chain amino acid levels are low, it points to poor digestion. Maybe you're eating enough protein to get the proper amino acids, but you don't have enough digestive enzymes. You're not able to break down those proteins into those smaller sized amino acids for your body to use to repair things. Or maybe you're eating enough and you're breaking it down, but you're not absorbing it. So it could point to something going on in your intestines or something going on at the stomach level. If those branched chain amino acids are too high, it's often a sign of insulin resistance. Too much sugar. You've had too much sugar exposure for long periods of time. Your body's insulin levels have gone high for such a long time that your cells begin ignoring that. That's one way to think of it. Your cells ignore the insulin. And so your blood sugar levels stay high, and you tend to have high blood sugar followed by crashes, by high blood sugar followed by crashes. And this can be a sign of poor mitochondrial utilization. Your body is not using the glucose that's there. And so this connects back to vitamin B1. B1 is almost like a spark plug. And if your body doesn't have enough B1, then it can't properly burn its fuel. So let me tell you just a little bit more about vitamin B1, which is also called thiamine, and why it matters for you and your family. B1 is basically your body's energy manager. It takes the carbs that you eat, whether that's from fruits or vegetables, and it converts them into energy your cells can actually use. If you don't have B1, then guess what? You don't have energy conversion. It's that simple. But it does so much more than just help you power through your day. Thiamine is a critical component for brain function, for heart health, and actually your entire nervous system runs smoothly when you have enough vitamin B1. Think mental clarity, think steady moods, and think a heart that keeps beating strong. When someone is low in vitamin B1, and it's way more common than you think, they often experience exhausting fatigue. that rest just doesn't help. They often experience nerve issues, problems with blood sugar regulation, and even heart problems. And so, for moms who are already running on empty half the time, a B1 deficiency can make everything feel 10 times worse. But the good news is that getting enough thiamine through your diet or supplements can really protect you from a lot of these symptoms. It supports your body's ability to create consistent energy, the kind of energy that helps you show up more fully for your family without crashing at 2 p.m. So, when you're thinking about foundational nutrients that help your body's metabolic and neurologic systems function smoothly, vitamin B1 needs to be on that list. And MVX can help you know if you have enough B1. And it can also tell you if you're taking a B1 supplement, if that vitamin B1 supplement is really working, or if you need to switch to a different brand or a different type. So, what do we do with all this information that we've just talked about? Well, MVX combines those 6 markers into 3 simple scores. The first score is IVX, which is how inflamed your body is. The second score is MMX, which is how nourished and energized your cells are. And then the third score is MVX, which is your overall resilience, your overall terrain strength. And it tells you kind of how resistant you are to early aging and chronic illness. So, IVX, again, we think of it almost like the smoke detector. MMX is almost like the fuel gauge, and MVX is your terrain score, your overall terrain score. How resistant are you going to be? How resilient are you going to be? Essentially, the lower the scores are, those tell you that your body is calm and resilient. Higher scores mean that your terrain is vulnerable and inflamed. And the beauty is, these numbers can actually change when you address the root cause, whether that's a need for more drainage, for detoxification, for more nutrition, or whether that's mitochondrial repair. When you address the root cause, those numbers can actually improve and change. So let me give you an example. I worked with a client who had chronic fatigue for years and years. Her traditional labs all appeared quote unquote normal. But when we ran an MVX, her GlycA was high and her small HDL particles were really, really low. And that told us her immune system was still fighting something and her detox pathways were congested. So we focused on improving drainage, supporting her mitochondria, and balancing out her nutrition. And in just a few months, her symptoms improved dramatically and her energy levels skyrocketed. That's what I love about this test. It measures function at a cellular level, and it also tells us where to focus our efforts for maximum benefit. So here's the encouraging part. Inflammation and cellular dysfunction are actually reversible. When you remove the interference and you nourish the terrain, then the body already knows exactly what to do. God designed it that way. It's designed to heal itself. We've been given one body to steward. And when we care for it with wisdom and intentionality, then healing becomes the natural result. So, if this episode resonated with you, if you feel like you've benefited from any of these episodes, I would encourage you to please forward them to a friend, tell somebody about it. I'm trying to get the word out for this podcast to as many people as I can. I feel like I'm called to educate people in natural health and work towards improving their health. In my opinion, when you don't feel good, it makes it so much more difficult to show up fully for your family, to fulfill your purpose for the Lord. When you don't feel good, it makes it so much harder to want to get up and go and do the things that you're supposed to do. And so I feel like I'm called to lighten that burden for people, the health burden for people. And I try to do that through this podcast, through working with people in one of my programs, because I feel like that's one way that I can make a difference for the kingdom of God. So if you like these episodes, if you feel like you've benefited, please pass them along. If you hate these episodes and you feel like they're awful, then pass them along to a friend as a practical joke. If nothing else, you'll get the deep, warm feeling that you've ruined someone else's day with this podcast. And I would appreciate another listener, whether they enjoy it or whether it's a practical joke. So either way, pass it along to a friend, please. If you're concerned that you're having these symptoms and you don't know what's causing them, what's behind them, I've got a free quiz that you can take called the Could It Be Lyme quiz. I'll put a link to that quiz below this episode if you would like to take that quiz and see whether or not your symptoms could be coming from a biotoxin illness. If you want more information about MVX or more information about what you might need to do to improve your terrain, I'd be happy to walk you through that as well. So I'll put a link to scheduling a free discovery call with me below this episode. So remember, health isn't just the absence of disease, absence of a clinical label. It's actually the presence of resilience. Thank you for listening to Discover Health Podcast. Again, I'm Dr. Joshua Sharp, and my goal is to help you restore the terrain so you can live more fully and live out your calling from the inside out.
Thanks for tuning in to the Discover Health Podcast. Remember, your health is a journey, not a destination. Keep exploring, and we'll see you next week.